inside for Albert. Albert will get the score. Fiddler, his farewell. He captain to a legend and probably rugby league immortality. That's not a try, that's a miracle.
G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. We've got Team List Tuesday for round 9. Is it round 10? What week is it? Round 10. Jeez, that is a bit of magic round fever for you right there. Round 10 Team List Tuesday. That means we are more than a third of the way through this regular season, which is fucking wild.
Crazy.
That is absolutely flying by. Let's get stuck into these games because we have got quite a bit to touch on. A lot of teams making a lot of changes here. Thursday night, Kathmandu, what have we got? Welcome in. How are you? What's doing Thursday? How are you? And what's doing on Thursday?
Hello. Thank you for the warm welcome. Well, action kicks off for round 10 with the Eels hosting the Dolphins at CommBank Stadium. Kickoff at 7:50.
Yeah, no big changes for the Parramatta Eels. Rumours getting around that Zach Lomax could have made an early return. Hasn't even been named on the extended. I reckon it's more likely that Lomax will return next week. Outside of that, no big changes for the Eels. Samrani still remains on the bench. Always been a centre. They're now testing him as a guy that can just play through the middle and on the edge. So keen to watch that over the next few weeks. But no big changes there for the Eels. Tuivati, he's not on the bench, to be fair, who's been really good for them. But that's about it. For the Finn, major changes here. Kurt Donohoe, he comes back into the side. Jeremy Marshall-King not playing again. So JMK there without. Donohoe will come in at 9. I assume he'll share duties with Sean O'Sullivan. Still no sign of Max Plath in this side either at this point. What have we got next, Kat? Friday night.
All right. Yes, Friday night, 6 p.m. The first game on Friday. We have the Knights hosting the Titans at McDonald Jones Stadium.
Knights coming off a very good win last week in Magic Round, so not much to talk about here. Phoenix starts at 9, Brayley's at 14. Thomas Kant still not in the team, so I guess good news for super coaches there if you didn't want to sell him this week. Fingers crossed he doesn't come into the side there and screw that all up. But yeah, no major changes for the Newcastle Knights off the back of that win as we expected. For the Titans, obviously Tom Weaver not featuring this week. Jayden Campbell makes his return. An enormous in for the Gold Coast Titans. That is massive. And Jojo Fafita, he also jumps back on the wing. Tony Francis out of the side. The news today that it looks like Dave Fafita could miss an extended period with an ankle injury. Optics there are weird as fuck. I don't know what's going on there with Dave Fafita. Late game, Cat, talk to me.
Late game, 8 p.m. at Accor Stadium. We have the Rabbitohs taking on the Broncos.
Okay, if you're not sitting down, take a seat and get yourself a hot cup of tea because I'm about to read the South Sydney team list this week. Latrell Mitchell, he returns at fullback. Myers is on the wing. Campbell Graham is in the centres. Bud Sullivan is at 5'8". Jamie Humphreys returns at halfback, a big in for South Sydney there. Arrow and Keon Kolomantangi line up in the front row to take on Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan. Very interesting. Havili's at 9 with Pete Mamazelis injured. We've got Aiken and Tallis Duncan on the edges. And then in jersey 13 is the one and only Pornhubner. On the bench, we have got Gray. Now, Totola was named the captain last week. He's gone from starting front row and captain to 18th man this week. So really, really interesting there from Wayne Bennett. He's made some big changes. Obviously, the stars are back in. Latrell, Humphreys, unreal to see. Still missing a host of very, very good players. And Totola was good enough to be captain last week, but he doesn't get a bait in the side this week. Very interesting. Maybe there's an injury or something he's carrying there. I'm not too sure. But hopefully we get more details on that because that's a little bit of a bizarre one. The Broncos are pretty poor loss last week to the Penrith Panthers, one they'll be very disappointed with. But no major changes for the Broncos. The big talking point was going to be Ezra Mann. Personally, I didn't think there was a hope in hell he was going to play this week, and he hasn't even been named in the extended, so you will not see Ezra Mann this week. I assume he will be named in Queensland Cup to make his return. All right, Saturday, Cat, talk to me. What do we got?
Super Saturday. Well, the action, I know you love a Super Saturday. It starts in Canberra at GIO Stadium. We have the Canberra Raiders taking on the Bulldogs. Kickoff at 3 p.m.
Yeah, so for the Raiders here, probably the biggest news is Corey Horsburgh is playing this week, which is fucking wild to me. Go and check out the NRL Physio's broadcast channel if you want a little giggle. Crazy how that's all played out. For how much we're changing our game to deal with head knocks and all that sort of stuff, the optics of this one, do not look good from my seat anyway. Not a doctor, but yeah, just a bit odd there. For the Bulldogs, Burton has been named at 5'8". Hayward moves back to the bench. Now, it is worth noting that Jacob Preston, he has been named as it stands right now. We'll wait and see how that plays out for him. I believe they're going to challenge his charge. Personally, I think they should get off, but I'm not sure if they will. The judiciary is just an absolute roll of the fucking dice. But if you're Jacob Preston, I think if you're going to play Origin this year, you need to be playing in the next 3 weeks. So I kind of back them doing it. And with their next man up mentality, I think they'll be okay without him, to be honest with you. So we'll wait and see how that plays out for the one and only Jacob Preston. Hopefully, for his sake, he does get off there. Next game, Kat, what do we got?
Next game, Saturday. We're still on Saturday, of course. 5:30 p.m. We have the Dragons taking on the Warriors at Wynn Stadium. But only one team can win. I'm sorry, I had to do that.
In the corner you get. Back in your box, kid. All right, let's have a look at the Dragons. Still no Lockie Ilias. King Tongia, he'll remain at halfback. I thought he did pretty well last week. Keen to see him go around again. As far as the rest of the side, no major changes, but Pacifici Tonga is coming off the bench. Now, I think it is his debut. Can you check that for me, Kat, if it is his debut? He might have played a game last year. Obviously, a big front row forward. He featured in the New South Wales under-19s last year. A very talented kid. And I keep talking about these Dragons juniors they've got. You've seen Stewart, you've seen Egan, these sort of guys. I think he's one in this crop as well. You got Holangahu coming through as well. They are building a very nice forward pack down there at the Dragons. If you haven't seen this kid play before, you'll certainly notice him this weekend. He's about as big as a fucking house. So I can't wait to watch him go.
According to his team page, 0 appearances, 0 tries. But he was in a replacement position against the Roosters in 2025 round 8.
Does it say that he played minutes or does it just say replacement?
No, replacement. So he was 18th man last week or the week before.
I thought he might have snuck a game in last year. But anyway, good to see him go around. Very exciting for you Dragons fans. When we have a look at the Wars, big in on the sting, Dallin Watene-Zalesniak. We spent some time with him in Las Vegas. I did think he said he'd be back in exactly 9 weeks or so. So good to see DWZ back from that injury, which means that Tane Torpicki will probably move to the left wing, I would assume, and DWZ will be on the right. Outside of that, no big changes for the New Zealand Warriors there. Nothing really on the bench either there. So the other big news for the Wars, though, is that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he is on the extended bench. So if Roger the Dodger is available, you would assume he will come in at left centre. If he does, you would assume Kurt Capewell will probably move back to either that middle role or maybe on the right edge. I really hope they just leave Lecker the Wrecker out there on his own. So we'll watch that space. But the Warriors, they're starting to get some of these guns back. Fisher Harris won't be too far away. RTS either in this week or the week after. Very exciting. And obviously for the Dragons too, Emre Gula out, which gives the young fella his opportunity. Late game on Saturday, Mandu.
Late game, we're up in North Queensland at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. The Cowboys taking on the Panthers.
Yeah, the only change here for the Cows, Ruben Cotter out of this one with a suspension. So Sammy McIntyre jumps into the lock forward role. One of my favourites in this comp. Love to see him go round. For the Penny Panthers, a couple of changes here to talk about. Now, Maverick Geyer, he's the only one that's out of the side at the moment, but Brian To'o returns. So it looks like he's going to play on the left wing. Now, interestingly enough, Milky, Tom Jenkins, he's been named on the bench. So I'm keen to see how this plays out, if he actually does start there or not. But if he does, if he starts on the bench, you've got Brad Schneider there as well, because Mitch Kenny's back at 9, so Schneider's there for coverage for him. If that is how it plays out, huge for young cheapie Patea, who scored a try last week for the Penrith Panthers. A lot of people looking him in from a Supercoach point of view. If their bench lines up with Brad Schneider and Tom Jenkins, Patea, I think he's a buy this week. So we'll talk about that with the one and only Tim Williams, who's a fuckwit. But we'll get to him later tonight and we'll touch on that. But something to keep an eye on there. Sunday afternoon, Kat.
Sunday, 2 p.m, Storm host the West Tigers down at Amy Park.
Now, I am eyeballing these two sides. I am not seeing a single change here. I don't think that anything has occurred here. There are no changes. There's no one on the extended bench that's come back from injury that's worth noting, that is one to keep an eye on. There was rumours that Fate Ape might be in the centres. I believe it was Brett Naden who had a bit of an injury this week, but he's been named as it stands. Both these teams are 1-17, which is incredibly rare, especially for two teams coming off losses last week. You don't see that very often. So I apologise if I've missed something there, but I'm pretty confident I haven't. These two sides, they are 1 1 to 17 for me. Trent Leroux playing this week by some form of fucking miracle. But yeah, 1 to 17 for those sides. Bring us home, Kat. What do we got?
Bringing you home to Four Pines Park. The Manly Seagulls will host the Cronulla Sharks at Sunday, 4:05 p.m.
How good. Great game to round out the weekend of footy. Jake Trbojevic, he returns in the front row, which means that Jazz Tavanga stays in jersey 13 and Jakey Simpkin is in jersey 9. Really interesting watch here. If they move Gerbo into the front row rotation, which I actually kind of like, I think Jazz has been really, really good in jersey 13 for them. And I think Jake Simpkin probably had the game of his career last week. So I'm keen to see him given another opportunity at 9. Is worth noting on their bench, Tommy Talau, Corey Waddell, Ethan Bullimore, Nathan Brown. So you would assume that if you've got Jake Simpkin at 9, he'll go close to going the distance there. Jazz might spend a bit of time there, but I'd be keen to see them give Jake Simpkin an opportunity. Outside of that, nothing else to really note with the Manly Seagulls. Obviously, Tommy Trbojevic featuring again. For the Sharkies, no big changes here. Sifa Talakai is out of this one. So there's been a change on the bench, which I think is Hamlin Welle coming into the side. Actually, it's probably Atkinson, I apologise. But yeah, Sifa's the only guy out there, so no big changes for the Sharkies there. All right, guys, and still Billy Burns starting as well. No sign of Teague Wilton. I believe he's still 2 to 3 weeks away from returning. Guys, that is your Team List Tuesday for what round do we say it was, Kat? 10?
10.
Round 10 it was. It was round 10 for you guys playing at home. Round 10 team list. Thanks for joining us once again here on the Rugby League Guru podcast. We've got Beers and Break Evens coming your way tomorrow night. We've got the Take the 2 podcast without Sowie. We've got a very special guest, a very good looking guest coming on as well. I'm a little bit intimidated having him in here, so stay tuned for that. But he's an absolute cracker coming your way. Big stats guy, huge stats guy. You'll really enjoy having him in.
Loves a number.
Loves a number. Loves a number.
Never met someone who loved a number more.
There's not many out there. Bit of a random fella too. We'll see you soon.